योगेन चित्तस्य पदेन वाचां मलं शरीरस्य च वैद्यकेन योपाकरोतं प्रवरं मुनीनां पतञ्जलिं प्राञ्जलिरानतोऽस्मि। आबाहुपुरुषाकारं शङ्खचक्रासिधारिणं सहस्रशिरसं श्वेतं प्रणमामि पतञ्जलिम्।
Hope you've been finding the information in the episodes useful so far. Today we will see Veerabadhrasana 1. Veerabhadra was born out of the matted locks of Lord Shiva at the time of Daksha's sacrifice. He was known to be a man of immense strength, a great warrior and a hero. Hence the poses named after him are also powerful, very strong, mentally alert and very focused. There are 3 poses in the Veerabadhrasana 1 series: Veerabadhrasana 1, Veerabadhrasana 2 and Veerabadhrasana 3. Veerabadhrasana 1 is a front-facing pose, 2 is a lateral pose with enormous expansion, and the 3rd is a balancing pose. I want to lay emphasis on the role sequencing plays in Iyengar Yoga. Sequencing is pivotal to establishing every position. The previous as well as the upcoming asana hones into a particular principle and then constantly cultures it in the practitioner. In this series, we have done Parshvottanasana and Utkatasana ahead of Veerabhadrasana 1. The hip stability and alignment in Parshvottanasana as well as the 90-degree positioning of the femur and shin bones in Utkatasana along with the engagement of the dorsal and the lift of the chest, all that has been discussed in Parshvottanasana and Utkatasana are very crucial for Veerabhadrasana 1 and serve as great preparation. In Veerabhadrasana 1, a practitioner establishes all these principles so that the culminating pose comes across in a way that is refined and strong. This is Veerabhadrasana 1. Now we will see the parts of the body that are relevant for Veerabhadrasana 1. Starting from the front top of the body, from the center notch of the throat to the very sides, stretching from the middle notch all the way towards the edges of the shoulder is the clavicle or the collarbone. This must always be kept stretched center to side, never to collapse or shrink. From there, the bone connecting the 2 sides of the rib cage between the breast is the sternum. From the soft point at the base of the sternum all the way towards the notch of the throat, the sternum must be tall and lifted. Moving to the side, hands stretched to the side. From the outer edge of the armpit, if I were to draw a line towards the outer hip, that would be the outer edge or the sides of the body. Here at the sides of the body, the last 2 ribs beyond which there is no rib, these 2 ribs are the floating ribs, again a marker that we need to know. Hands on the waist and turning to face the other way. At the back of the body, right at the base of the neck or the starting of the shoulder, all the way to the floating rib that we just mentioned is the back of the rib cage. The back of the rib cage must always be engaged from back to front in order to lift the chest. Moving down, as you can see, this is the buttock, that is the thigh. The portion where the thigh connects with the buttock, this line or crease as we call it, is the crease of the buttock. From the inner crease towards the outer crease is an important area to note, Again, inner to outer crease. In the heel pad, if I were to press into various areas of the heel pad, we must note a textural difference. Parts of the heel can be pressed well, which leads to a good bounce, but approximately around the center of the back heel is the more resistant area of the heel where we have the calcaneus or the heel bone. The outer edge of the foot, the side of the foot that connects to the little toe, the outer edge of the foot must be gripped almost in any standing pose. Turning to face in front, this is the arch of the foot. This bridge-like area is the arch of the foot. The arch of the foot is never collapsed. It should always be lifted sharply as if it has life. We are spending a lot of time standing in standing poses. The position of the foot, where we put weight, how we grip it, where and what the distribution of weight is very important. This arch of the foot, when it's lifted, the contact comes on the outer edge of the foot, something to be noted. Stepping with the other leg, there is the circumference of the heel. Within that, on the side of the outer ankle, on the side of the little toe, this patch of heel which falls on the side of the little toe or outer ankle is what we would refer to as the outer heel. Now we will come to what is called the root of the thigh. This is the thigh and it connects to the pelvis at the junction of the groin. We can think of it as the origin of the thigh. The thigh originates from the pelvis at this junction. This is the root of the thigh, very pertinent for Veerabadhrasana 1. These are the parts of the body that we must know for Veerabadhrasana 1. Now we will go about how to do Veerabadhrasana 1. Keeping your hands in front of your chest, jump open your legs apart, 4 feet apart. Take your hands down to your waist. At this point, I want to mention that people with problems of either the hip, knee or ankle must not jump. You will simply spread the legs wide apart. You will not jump apart. From there, keeping the hands on the waist, wide clavicles, rolling the shoulder back, the back ribs have to be sucked in towards the front ribs until the base sternum is contacted, then lifted from base to top. Keeping that action, knees back, thighs back, the femur bone will not protrude forward. The femur bone should be kept behind as if the entire leg was just one bone. If you project the femur bone forward, it breaks the alignment of the leg. From the socket, the femur bone, from the femur bone, the shin bone, and then to the heel bone, the calcaneus that we mentioned, all fall in one straight line. With that, raising the chest up right from the base spine, treating the entire frontal surface of the spine as one, the practitioner has to sharply lift the anterior face of the spine, the sides of the body. From there, you will have to completely turn the right leg out and then the left leg into a 60-degree position. This is where Parshvottanasana, the square hips of Parshvottanasana, will come. I'll quickly run you through that. In order to get the hips in one line, off the back leg, because the hip has a backward draw, a pull, the outer hip of the back leg must roll forward. On the front leg, the femur bone should be sucked into the socket and the hip should move back. So when you have the legs forward, the outer hip must come and this femur bone must be drawn back, must be pulled back. And therefore, you have to adjust the hip in a square line. Remember, I used the word roll because from the inner back thigh to the outer back thigh, along the crease of the buttock that we mentioned, you will have to roll the inner crease to the outer crease to get the hip in one line. Ideally, this should be good to get the hip in one line. If it still doesn't work, only then you raise your heel up, not to throw the heel out, but to really roll the back outer thigh from in to out, and then fix the back outer heel that we mentioned firmly down. The outer heel should be planted, only then the arch of the foot will raise up. If the outer heel collapses, then the arch or the root of the pose sinks. That shouldn't happen. Lift the arch, press the outer heel. From that point, having the hips square, we will come to where we talked about the root of the thigh. You will have to make sure that the sides of the body are raised, the shoulder is back, and the entire length of the spine is lifted. Remember, back we have the tailbone, front we have the frontal side of the tailbone. From there we have to lift up, which means the body will be slightly backward to get that lift. From there, you have to sharply descend the thigh from the root. Root of the thigh should be descending, holding forth on that back outer heel. So gripping the back outer heel, pressing the thigh back to put weight on the outer heel, drawing the quadricep to put weight on that outer heel, raising the spine up. You have to fix and descend the root of the thigh down in such a way that the thigh comes parallel to the ground and the angle between the thigh and the shin is a sharp, precise 90 degrees. From there, the practitioner stands up again, turns in front, jump, feet together. Now moving forward, to complete the pose, we proceed. You take your hands up towards the chest, jump, keep your legs apart, wide apart, around 4 feet apart. From there, keeping your hands in Vimanasana, we mentioned the collarbones, the sternum and the shape of the chest. The chest, because the hands are expanded, just like when a flower blooms, it's not just the petal, but the entire face expands. When the hands are to the side, right from the core of the chest, it all should expand. The rib cage should expand, the diaphragm should expand, the chest should expand, the collarbones should expand, and that expansion should be taken all the way until the fingertips. Maintaining that, we turn completely to the right side, keeping your hand in Vimanasana. The previous time that we did it, we aligned the hip where the hip came in one line. That should be brought here using the crease of the buttock, back of the thigh, heel if necessary, etc. With the chest wide and the spine anteriorly potently lifted. The lift should be lifeful, vibrant. With that, we take your hands up to Urdhvasthasana. While taking the hands to Urdhvasthasana, make sure to access the side of the body, opening every little intercostal muscle one away from the other, pulling the back ribs in, pulling the adrenal band in, raising the entire surface of the abdomen upward. With that, think of the root of the thigh. Descend not from the knee but from the root of the thigh. Cut the root of the thigh down, maintaining the lift of the spine. So here there are two movements. When the thigh goes down, the body should not shrink. The body has to stay vibrantly up. At that point, we should remember to keep the contact at the outer heel, open the arch, roll the outer hips in one line, cut the root of the thigh down, pull the back ribs in towards the frontal chest and raise up. From there, stamping the back outer heel, you get your hands back to Vimanasana, turn forward, jump, feet together.
As I go down, I'm unable to keep my heel pressed to the ground. What can I do about that?
We will take, this is called a quarter brick and it's half round, but if you're doing it at home, anything with a slightly raised incline is good. So keeping this, I would like you to place once again your heel bone here foot mounds will be down on the ground. Foot pad, that is every toe's pad will be down on the ground. Heel alone will be up. And then you step forward, a large step. Yeah. Now again use the thigh, square your hip. Use the thigh to nicely cut into this heel. Heel should be pressed. For that the leg should be far back and then pressed. The thigh should press the foot far back and then the heel should be pressed. With that, maintaining this rooting, I'd like you to bend your front leg to a 90 degree. Shoulders back, anterior spine long. Here I'd really like you to press into a contact. The contact is not just from the heel, but the entire thigh must come behind to press this heel down. Now you see that there is a firm, unshaking contact of the heel. So there are three ways by which the heel level or the heel may be pressed down depending on the opening your heel or the condition your heel hinges are in. We now saw the first method where the heel is kept on a curved block. Here the heel is kept at a higher level, but using this high level, we first have to learn how to press the heel far back and down, making sure the prop supports the heel and the arch. Following this, we reduce the level to that of a plank. Again, using a plank, we push the heel far back and down, noting the significant reduction in height. Following this, we use a rolled mat where the heel again is pressed back and down. Gradually, we therefore learn to reduce the height step by step from the curved block to that of a plank and then to a rolled mat, and then we negate all these props and then put our heel straight on the ground as required for Veerabadhrasana 1.
I should keep my spine tall and lifted as I go into the final pose, yet I do feel it drops. How can I deal with that?
A very pertinent question. For all practitioners, as we go to the final pose, there is a feeling that the spine is dropping. We'll see a way to address that now. For this, we'll be using a rope wall. What you see here is a rope wall where ropes are securely fixed to a wall in such a way that it can very easily and securely bear body weight. Okay, I'd like you to stand with your back heel against the wall and take your hands up to hold a rope. One rope of this hook, one rope of that hook, shoulder width apart. If it's more convenient for you to use both hooks, that's fine, but one hook is good. From here, I'd like you to raise the sides of the body. Now, as far as the heel is concerned, there is the wall and there is the floor. There is the joint where the floor meets the wall. I'd like you to raise your heels up on the wall and then descend your heel down until your heel very surely hits that joint. It has to be wedged into that joint. It has to be placed in that joint. When that happens, I want you to place the heel down, press the heel bone down. At the same time, climb your hands up tall until your hand uncompromisingly provides a lift to the side body. The face of the spine should be bright, tall and long. Maintaining that, I'd like you to step forward, reserving the back leg on the joint. Step forward. As you go, try and keep the body towards the wall, gently releasing your hand, sliding it down the rope, but the body is still tending towards the wall. With that, further lift your hand up to hold the rope and give a good length to the spine. Now you see the face of the spine is strong and lifted. Keeping the face of the spine, hitting the back leg heel against the wall, I'd like you to lower your thighs, root of the thigh down. Every time you lower, your movement of your side body toward the hand should be sharp. So as you cut a 90 degree with the thigh, come lower, lift the spine up. Come lower, lift the spine up. And you see, in order to access the spine, the head is not falling in front. The body is back, the head is back, shoulders are back, back ribs move in front, so the weight of the trunk is not falling forward, it's lifted up towards the rope and more towards the rope wall. Being in that position, stamping the back leg at the heel, come up. Wait in that position. I'd like you to now take the back heel a little up on the wall. For those who can't descend the leg into the joint, the back heel, place it a little up on the wall and then step forward with the front leg. So you can incline the leg a little more, lifting it to a 45-degree where the toe pads are down on the ground. There I want you, this is for people who are not able to descend the heel into the joint. Press the thigh, lift the knees up, lock the kneecaps up, and from the thigh press the heel. Holding, crawling the hands higher up on the rope, give a good lift to the sides of the body, anterior spine right in front of the tailbone, tall. From there, I want you to sit, and every time you sit, mark the extension of the spine, weight pressing the back heel, back outer heel, and sit until you're able to hit a 90 degrees. The more you sit, the more the spine lifts. The more you sit, the more the back outer heel remains pressed. Now you see how tall the spine is. Stamping the back leg at the heel, come up. And then step back. So this is not a case where just one day of doing is going to solve it. All the prop arrangements must be done repeatedly, must be felt, and every time you feel something using a prop, you should go back to doing the classical pose and see if you can replicate the education that the prop gave you in doing the pose classical, the normal way. We now saw how to do Veerabadhrasana 1, both the classical posture as well as with props. In any asana, various parts of the body are accessed. An asana becomes one only when it touches every single cell, every single fragment of the body. For that, the mind must go to every single part where the asana is being touched, evoke it and make it participate in the asana. And therefore, the mind becomes one with the action, one with the body. This makes it movement in meditation or meditation in movement. That being said, in Veerabadhrasana 1, there are some pivotal movements that we focus on. Common movements are rotation, expansion, and elongation. These are base movements that are very important for general well-being. When a practitioner starts Veerabadhrasana 1, we go to Parshvottanasana. In Parshvottanasana, the hip is squared. To square the hip, we rotate the thighs. That rotation is a base movement which is generally important for joint mobility and lubrication. And then we go to Vimanasana, where the body is expanded, the chest is expanded, diaphragm is expanded, and this gives organic space. And then when we go to Urdhva Hastasana, the anterior spine fully elongates, giving a totality to all movement languages. In Veerabadhrasana 1, all the appendicular skeleton, the joints, namely the wrists, the elbows, the shoulder, the hip, the knee, the heel, all of it is used in participation and synchronization to make the pose. And therefore, every joint is mobilized, every ligament tendon is worked, the entire spine is built into the tallest, longest position possible. Veerabadhrasana 1 is a pose that creates immense mental alertness and fortitude. The strength that is shown in the body is also brought to the mind, and so people who are depressive in nature find great benefit in doing Veerabadhrasana 1. Nevertheless, all the poses must be practiced under the guidance and the keen eye of a certified Iyengar Yoga teacher.
Mm-hmm.